yourself. Are we ready to go? Call this special meeting of the Manchester Community Schools to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we can skip the roll call tonight. All are present since we don't have anybody zooming in. Emergency additions and deletions. We have one 4.2 addition of administrative contracts. Do we have anything else?
No, we do not.
At this time, we'll have hearing of patrons. Okay, we'll move on to recommendation for approval. Resolution that provides additional sick leave during COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, and this was the resolution that was brought to the board. They made a call what they wanted, and then they changed their mind afterwards, and it was modified by Mr. France. And so, essentially it's saying the same thing as what we had before.
Move to approve. We have a motion by Mr. Esposito to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Raymer. Any discussion? I'd like to point out something to the board. I contacted Mr. France on this, and he said we could do what we wanted. In line 1, it says additional sick leave may be made available. And then in B, it says it may be retroactive to January 1. My understanding that we were going to put the word will or shall in there. Any comment?
What was Mark's comment?
That he actually said that the administration's intent was to pay everybody, but this left them out.
You never know. And that's standard, typical language.
Well, the discussion in the last meeting was we weren't gonna make people tell a story to get paid or make a judgment, so I guess I don't understand why the word may is in there. That makes it sound like somebody has a choice or can make a determination. What's the board's feeling?
Well, it gives flexibility and latitude. I mean, and you don't know what's gonna happen. You got all kinds of variants popping up, so. Just so everybody knows, the intent of the board is that, we don't want people struggling through this. I guess I've got one question. Is there more CARES Act money coming to us to cover this PPE? Because eventually, we've been failed in security is the way I'm looking at this whole thing, so. Regardless of what the source was or whatever, is there more CARES Act money coming to cover any PPP?
What I understand, yes, but we still don't know in an amount yet.
And when would that happen?
Big question. I still haven't heard. We've been watching our emails and everything from the state, and I've been a lot of meetings, and I have still not, no one actually has that answer yet that I have heard. So if you know before me, let me know.
Well, I will, but I don't know.
Any further discussion?
I agree with you, Dave. I think may leaves a lot of question and ambiguity in what could be. I know it's one word, it's one silly word in it, but it leaves so much question. So I like the word shall as well. It gives no question. and it gives all rights to those that are suffering at this point, or that are out for not their own doing. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, we have a motion and a second on the table. If there's no other discussion, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Raymer?
Yes.
Robert?
Is the motion on the table to approve this as is?
Yes.
I have to say no.
Mr. Brubaker?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hensley?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6-1. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Rameau for the discussion and information of the strategic plan.
Well, we are here tonight to give our final presentation to the board, just have good conversations with the board. Thank you for all that are here. We're so excited about listening to you again and just hearing what you have to say about your buildings and your plan. Just please be aware that no decisions will be made this evening. The board is still working through some of the financial part of it. And we do have a financial meeting. You're more than welcome to come hear that about what we can do, what we can't do. I believe it's next Thursday? Yeah, next Thursday. Forget the date. Sorry, I got too many dates running through my head. And then February 16th, the board will actually meet and learn some more things about tax caps before ever going down that road and making any decisions. So definitely they want your input, so that's why you're here this evening. We're going to start with MES, and so we're really looking forward to what you have to share.
Good evening. It's an honor to present our plan. 2 years ago, we started this, which seems so long and when you think about it, but when you are told to dream big, it's not something that we took lightly. So we had several parent community groups that we met with. We met with teachers, support staff. I also met with a student group to gather input on areas in the building that they wanted changed or improved or just modified. So I just have to publicly thank my staff for coming out, especially on a snow day. And as you can see, we've had a great turnout, so that just shows the support for what we have. And we are going to start off with Amy Lambert's going to come up and talk to us.
I'm Amy Lambert, and I teach first grade at MES, so thank you for giving us the opportunity to let us speak here tonight. I have notes for myself this time, so hopefully I won't say as many times as I did last time. But we have 6 pillars of what it would be like to be an MCS graduate at the elementary school level. And so literacy, or to be literate, was one of our pillars to be a successful graduate. And one of the things that is unique about MES is that we are able to provide grasp at every single grade level. And so, like, for example, in a typical classroom, in my classroom, I have students who don't know their letters and sounds yet, students who are reading at 2nd grade, and everything in between. So grasp allows us to be able to meet every student where they are and help them to grow. And as far as being literate, not just from a curricular standpoint of education, but also I know that Mr. Hensley and I talked about this before about being financially literate as well. The Squire store comes into play when we are able to give students an opportunity to spend money at the Squire store for earning Squire bucks or to save. They've also even figured out how to put their money together with a friend to make a purchase, and so it's really cool to watch them be financially literate and even try to teach them on a very basic level that if they save money, that they can actually gain money. And so another thing that, excuse me, that we were able to do, since we've gone one-to-one in the last couple of years, is use our Chromebooks and not just as busy work. So if you would ever come into the classroom during literacy and see the classroom, you would see kids busy on Chromebooks, but they are not just playing games. They are very much using technology to further their path and development. So they are doing iReady to both remediate, to beyond grade level, and to enrich the students who are above grade level. So that is our first pillar at MES. And next one, if I can do this right, awesome, is a communicator. So teaching students at MES that we communicate all the time. We communicate with our body language, like I'm talking fast right now because Mrs. Kors told me to scale it down. But like we teach students that we talk with our verbal words and also our nonverbals. And so in just having communication is the essence of success or failure. I do believe that in any business, in education, and all that. So I have a student in my classroom who's barely verbal, so we have done a lot of nonverbal. I also have students in my classroom who have second and third languages, being able to communicate with language but also with our bodies. I've recently had an opportunity to work with a new assistant who is bilingual, and that has been very fun to have her teach me and my students some new languages, or new words for just everyday classroom use. It's really helped. So being able to communicate is something that we need to be able to do at every level in life. Being a collaborator, this is really, really big, and I thought about this since last time I was talking about this. I wish I would have brought it up. I think I talked last time about being able to work with our EL director, Mrs. Screeton, on a daily basis. On a normal day, she comes into my classroom, helps me support the EL population, but also I was just counting on a normal day in my own classroom, this would be true of most of the people that I work with. There are 12 adults in and out of my room servicing students at their level for speech, for RTI, for language, for enrichment. So we are able to collaborate with each other, and I think that the kids pick up on that. They see the adults in our school collaborating, cooks, custodians, everyone's part of the same goal of the kids. And so we model it first, and then we give them opportunities in class. So I know that my class is getting ready to beg Mr. Burnworth, he doesn't know this yet, but we were learning about that fruit flies were the first ones to be sent into space. And so you have fruit flies in your classroom, I heard from my son. And so my students would love the opportunity to be able to collaborate with you, but also just with themselves and each other, and asking questions when we don't know something. Even as a teacher, I don't often know things, and I learn things from my teammates and my admin all the time. So giving kids that space and that opportunity daily to have a knee partner, an elbow partner, STEM, PBL, those kinds of things, to be researching what they're passionate about. I had a student stand from recess yesterday because she wanted to learn more. And I think that that is just indicative of our school culture. We try really hard to make kids want to come and collaborate and learn. Another successful graduate, and this is huge in life in general, is being a problem solver. So it's everything. I think one thing that makes our school system so great is that we are a pre-K to 12 effort. Just because I'm at MES doesn't mean that I don't care about what goes on at the high school or in between. So being able to solve a problem is huge. So teaching kids from being able to walk out of the bathroom with their pants all the way up, like to solve that problem, all the way to being able to figure out what to do when something doesn't come easily. I have students who, they face a problem for the first time that doesn't come easily to them, and they want to shut down, they want to melt down. Okay, so what can we do instead? What can we do if our pencil isn't working? That sounds simple, I know, but it really does. Teaching them to think and to ask for help, and as adults we have to do the same thing. So also just to use their resources, and as adults we look for resources when we have problems, and I think we start with the preschool level. I know Mrs. Daniels and Mrs. Rose to talk about that all the way up. What do we do if we have a problem? And we talk to the kids about being solution focused instead of problem focused. So there's always going to be a problem, and you're either going to spend your energy on the problem or the solution. So teaching our kids to do that, I think, has been a definite pillar of our, or at least of our goal at MES. Did I skip one? Okay, a passionate learner. So I think one of the other things I love about my school is, granted I've only taught in one other school, but both my brothers and their wives are teachers as well, and the passion that exists within NCS is pretty amazing, especially in the climate that we are in. So I work with people who, even when we don't have energy, we can put energy on stage to appear, well, except Jamin, I know he has real energy. But I like just passionate about being where we are, and then our passion falls and trickles down to them. So the university, going to, well, we didn't get to do that this year, but to investigate, college opportunities, but not just that, talking to the kids about not everybody's cut out for college, and that's okay. What are you going to do with your life that you are passionate about? Giving them opportunities. I'm thinking of a specific student I had recently that doesn't really excel academically, but he, for some reason, started dancing the other day, and he was so excited to show that to me, but talking to them about what is your passion, and the fact that they want to come to school every day, and that they want to be there, and they want to keep learning is huge. So we want to keep giving them that opportunity by creating stations and spaces for them to continue doing those things. And finally, persevere is our last pillar, and I think that would be appropriate to end with. So I had a student get me an ornament the other day, even though it's January, and it just said I survived 2020, and as a first grader. And I think that COVID in and of itself has taught students, parents, teachers, admin, every person that lives on this earth perseverance in and of itself. Parents tell me this all the time. Working past challenges, not quitting when things get hard, even if we feel like it, because we're going to feel like it. And so, and also just teaching them that there are multiple ways to do different things. So if Mrs. Corus and I try to organize something, it's going to look very different because, well, she can organize things. And I'm just saying, like, we all have different skills. And so I think that just persevering and teaching the kids not to quit when things get hard is a good way to end. Telling you about the 6 pillars that we have. We try to model these things every single day for the kids. So that was as short as I could make it. So with that, I'm going to lead you into. Okay, Mrs. Screeton.
So one thing we did when we started this whole process was put everything on the list that everyone ever suggested to us, either if it was passing in the hallway or when we were in an official meeting. So one thing the state of Indiana does is if they're going to push something down from the state, generally they provide grants and funding to help you kind of push that through. And then after a few years, they pull back on that funding and expect you to do it on your own, which is fine. But you have to look for trends through the state of Indiana. And one thing that Sue Janaki does really well is she identifies those trends way before anybody else. And so that's how some of the things ended up on our list, is people were asking for them, and then the funding was just naturally there, or we can get it through grants. And that's how a few of our things came upon this list. It wasn't that we just threw them up and thought, what would be fun? There's a madness to all of this.
Hello, my name is Nicole Screeton. At Manchester Elementary, we are looking to start a dual language program in kindergarten for the 2021-22 school year, with the intention of adding 1 classroom each year as the students progress through elementary school. Students in the dual language classroom would spend 50% of their day learning their content in Spanish and the other 50% learning their content in English. To make this possible, we'll continue to collaborate with a representative from Indiana University on best practices for starting a dual language program. We feel that starting this program would be an opportunity for both our native Spanish and our native English students to become biliterate and bilingual in the classroom when they get to graduation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joel Eichenauer, currently the STEM specialist at Manchester Elementary School, half-time. The other half is a math interventionist. And wow, we've had a great 2.5 years so far with a brand new program. We're receiving a lot of accolades from the community. Parents are excited, students are energized, and it's led us to dream. Sue and I have had a lot of conversations about what do we need and what do we want to dream about doing in the future. And so this goal of being able to figure out what are some of the ways that we can enhance the classroom learning? How can we extend the classroom learning? And one of the ideas was coming up with an outdoor amphitheater. In the current time and situation we're in, we're trying to distance and spread and do that. And the trend in outdoor education, whether it be outdoor classrooms, outdoor kindergartens, this gives us the ability to kind of have somewhat of a blended partial program. It gives us a chance to focus on project-based learning, which if anybody has spent time taking a look at where I think we're headed in education, is taking a look at integrating and combining subjects, rather than leaving the math and the sciences separate. Putting those together with the language arts, putting them in units that are real life learning, that are engaging, that are hands-on, that have life scenarios attached to them, with career goals and outcomes from them. And so being able to improve with now the Create to Think lessons that Sue Janegi is working with, all grade levels, and the goal for the state of Indiana by 2025 of having every school to be STEM certified, every grade level teaching STEM lessons, not just a STEM specialist teaching lessons once a week to the kids, but them happening on a regular basis within the classrooms. To do that, though, we do need some spaces. We need some ability to be able to expand. And part of that would be maybe doing some things that are on an outdoor scale, such as the amphitheater, or maybe being able to do that with some space and equipment within the building. I know that ties in a little bit with the office space renovation too. And developing the community partners to be able to come in and extend the learning too. Already we've extended the learning with the high school woodworking class. Mr. Hooks and his students used some of the grant funds that I received from the Community Foundation to build outdoor benches for our kids. I've already partnered with the local Boy Scouts, and we've completed 2 Eagle Scout projects with our outdoor learning lab already. One for raised beds by Sam Reichenbach, and Caden Dillon has just finished helping work a trail network in the woods that the school owns behind the elementary school. We now have a trail. We're working on signage, but we've got steps to enter and a great trail, and the comments from kids have been everything from, wow, I've never been in the woods before, to this is a real hike, and in 5 minutes we can leave the school doors and without paying transportation costs, without taking missed time from long distance travel for busing, we can get out into the woods, into real nature, and be able to fully experience it. So the community partner with the Boy Scouts has been a great way to work with that together and to do that. So we need some space designed to be able to create and do some of these things. And I welcome some of you who haven't been to the elementary school for a little while to take a walk around the outside. You'll see we've got 6 benches already in a little miniature amphitheater style, kind of pilot and see what this might be like. But we've got dreams of maybe being able to build something bigger that could host maybe larger quantities of students or grade levels at a time. Sky's the limit, really. We've got the greenhouse out there. We picked some radishes, and we've got carrots that Nate Fingerly's partnered with us with River Ridge Farms to be able to mentor me in growing some things. We'll be able to pick carrots. They're only about 2 inches long right now, but they're overwintering right now. They'll be ready to pick in March and April here. The kids are energized. They're excited. I'm excited. It builds and it grows from there. But being STEM certified isn't just about one person teaching STEM. It's about us all embracing STEM and leading it from there.
Hi, I'm Karen Daniels, preschool teacher at MES, and I'm here to tell you that preschool's where it's at. This is where we start. We have so much joy and energy every day that we make learning fun, and we want to expand on that so we can help grow our base of our school. It's our foundation. We provide early interventions and needed help to help children succeed in school with our special ed program and regular preschool. This year I've been teaching regular preschool and special ed preschool, which has been a joy, and it's been really good for both sets of populations. We would like to add additional preschool rooms, additional staff. Transportation, busing is big for parents to be able to put their child on a bus and send them to school. And that would also allow us to be able to have field trips with preschool once we get over this stuff. We also need scholarships for children who aren't able to afford to come to school, but yet they need us. And some of our dream things is to come up with a gift basket, so when a family has a newborn child, they would get a gift basket with welcome to the Manchester Community Schools family, some books on how to read to your children, some newsletters on what are the developmental guidelines or milestones that your child will hit. So those are some extra things that we'd love to do, but preschool is your foundation.
And one thing that's not listed up there is people ask me all the time how preschool is funded. It's parent funded, and then the Community Foundation also gives us a few scholarships, $10,000 a year to be exact, but that's not guaranteed every year. It's a grant, so we're thankful when they do offer it. But because it's parent paid, it really needs to be self-sufficient. And I have parents calling almost a couple times a month asking me to get their child in preschool, and we have to turn them down because we can only take 48 students because we are licensed, and that just means that you can only have 24 students in one class with 2 adults. So the need is there. We do get that quite a bit.
What is the cost to the parent?
It's so hard to figure out who's talking to me. It's sorry, it's $250 a month.
Thank you.
So one thing we want, I'll cover this one. We do have quite a significant need of special ed. We have quite a population. We do house the severe and profound room in our building. We also have students with emotional and trauma issues that come in, and we see that growing more and more every year. So we are requesting a sensory room and an autism support room. So it's just a place where they can go and kind of regulate themselves. As adults, we do it naturally. For me, if my kids are in the back and I have teenagers and my husband's loud because he's Italian and he's from Chicago, I have to turn the radio down because it's too loud for me and it bothers me. So as adults, we do this naturally, but this is something that children need to learn. We need to teach some children, especially kids with special needs or students that are on the spectrum. So we would just like to create a learning lab and a space for students to go that either need additional learning help, that need a safe, quiet place to kind of calm down, regulate, and so that they can be ready to go back to class quickly.
Is this something to be regulated with a para?
Yes,
teacher?
you would
they're
take
not
it.
going to be there by themselves?
No, there's an adult. Mm-hmm. There's you would sign in, and definitely. Another wish was to have a math lab. So we're such literacy gurus, and I know this because it's just what we kind of it's just teaching literacy is what we're all really good at. We brag about it. Our scores are amazing, and our math scores are good too. But we don't have that math space where kids can really discover math and investigate it and figure it out and problem solve. So we would like to take one of our classrooms and put whiteboards, interactive whiteboards all the way around, and then buy some more math manipulatives so that kids can kind of just get the big picture instead of just figuring it out on a worksheet or on a Chromebook. Math is something that you need to do in practice, and so this would give us that opportunity.
Hi, Ben McLaughlin, School Counselor, Manchester Elementary. So I get to talk about some of the physical changes that we need and want for our building. And I can tell you, as my dad was in the system for so long at this building, that I can tell you there hasn't been any physical changes since it was built. I was in the building as it was being built when I was a kid. So it's time for some changes. One is safety, and that's to get the offices moved to the main entrance. An unfortunate truth that we need to address is that our schools are not as safe as they used to be, and regulating who comes into our buildings and where they go has never been more important. And we've got a gap as we allow people in, If they wanted to come in and turn the corner and go do something awful, they could do that. So we need to get our offices as quickly as possible moved to the front of the building, just to regulate who comes in and who comes out a lot better. The hallway between the library and the art room, that'll connect a couple wings that right now and for the past 30 years, if you want to get between the 3rd grade wing and like 1st grade wing, you have to cut through the library. And right now it would create a bottleneck. If we needed to move kids quickly, we can't do it. You can't do it the way it's set up, either to the art room or library. Another concern is that we do have to move students sometimes that are having emotional issues, and we don't want to cut through the library because a lot of times there's other classes in there, and we'd have to go clear around the whole building to get to the other side where we would have more of a calm down room for them. I think that's mostly a safety concern, but even with the COVID restrictions now, we can't even take our kids to the library. So, if we have a kid, we're going about a quarter mile just to get anywhere because we can't even cut through there anymore. Camera system, we just want to make sure that is updated, that we don't have any dead spots. I know we've worked on that some, but I think we still have some areas where we're not able to see, and I'm not sure how user-friendly that is, but we just want to make sure we're doing a really good job there. The staff bathrooms, we've had one added down by the gym, and it's being used quite a bit. We're thankful for that. But we definitely need to get some bathrooms in the wings as well. The teachers just don't have the time. I know we've talked about it before, but they do not have the time. When I go in for guidance lessons, they usually say, do you mind if I run to the restroom really quick? Because they just don't have the time to do it. So that would be really helpful. Okay, some of the other changes are not necessarily...
That's a quick question before you move
Yep.
on. The security and safety, have our SO officers, are they involved in this? Because ultimately, something happens, they're the ones that are gonna have to respond to it. They're the ones that maybe their life's on the line as well as everybody else, so I just wanna make sure that they're involved in this.
Yes, we do a safety audit with them. I think it's every year. So we have to go through and walk around. We make sure that the doors are labeled with the numbers. I always tell my staff, know which is the north side of the building, the east side, so if you have to call an ambulance. We have things in place like the address next to every phone so that if you're calling 911 and you have a sub, they know. So yeah, we do, definitely.
Thank you.
One quick question about the bathroom, or the bathrooms, I should say. Are you asking for one on specific locations on every wing? Or
Yeah, right now there are no staff restrooms at the south end of the building at all. So both the 3rd, 2nd grade teachers, 1st grade teachers, kindergarten, they just don't have anything close. Now the kindergarten teachers, they've got stalls in their rooms. I don't know if the teachers use those. I assume they probably do. But it's basically all of our teachers. That's where all of our, aside from preschool, they just don't have any bathrooms close to where their rooms are.
Okay.
So, some of the changes, the ones we talked about, were for safety. Those that the need has changed for, but then also education has also changed for the way kids learn, and we want to provide better atmosphere for them to learn. We want to remove the stage. It's just not used anymore the way that it used to be. Now that we have the PAC, we do our programs over there. We don't do all school programs anymore. We want to use that space better, so we want to remove that space down to the commons level floor. So we would open up that commons area. We'd have a lot more space. We also then would like to open it up into the gym. Right on the north side of the commons area, we'd have some doors, access to the gym that way. The soft acoustical flooring in the larger commons area, part of that is just because we need to get rid of the carpet. I mean, imagine preschool through 3rd graders eating on carpet 2 meals a day. So that would just be, that's just a change we need to make. And I guess it says area and down the hallways too. Enclose the current commons area. You've all seen that. The commons area is just open, which means it's loud. And kids don't have a lot of opportunity to socialize at school during the day, especially, and right now with distancing, like even at recess, they've got to stay with their own class, so they just don't have the opportunity that they need to be social and to be loud. And so what we want to do is build, between all of the columns that are open currently, we would build a half wall, and then from there up would probably be a window, whatever it would be. So you'd still have the light and the visibility, but then we would be able to contain the sound a lot more so that kids could be louder because they need to. And then also we could do more fun things like playing music on Fridays. I experimented with that last week because we got a speaker, and I thought, hey, I wonder if we played music just loud enough that the kids could hear it, and they thought it was the best thing ever. It wasn't loud, but they loved it. And the hardest part was keeping them in their seats because they wanted to dance, which I love. I wish we could let them dance. But with that closed in, there's just a lot of benefits to that. And then we have another wish is to install lofts above the ends of the common, spiral slide down. I mean, you can see pictures of other schools that we've gone to see. Part of that, I mean, just with the innovation, but creating a wow factor too. We want kids to walk in the building and just gasp like wow, and we want parents to do that too. And I don't think we have anything included for the exterior of the building, but we don't have the wow factor on the exterior or the interior of the building. So that would be something we would love to do.
My name is Bethany Hall, and I teach second grade at MES. Watching a child makes it obvious that the development of his mind comes through movements, and that's from Maria Montessori. Children move. Yet for schools across our nation, our seating for children has not been adapted to this understanding, and this must change. People often think of a child learning when they see a child motionless and quiet, and this is far from the case. Montessori would argue that mental development must be connected with movement and is dependent on it. Children should be in movable seating, have the opportunity to change and rearrange seating, and should be provided with interactive spaces so that movement can take place. Abraham Maslow hypothesized that humans were guided by their basic needs. Once a need is met and satisfied, we can move on to the next. We must remember this as we create environments for children to learn and plan accordingly. Our plan to meet our students' needs of security and then belonging can be brought to actualization with lighting that promotes learning and provides a calm, safe environment for our students who too often come from homes of chaos. The need for belonging and community can be met using our walls with art and murals that promote positive character traits and tells the story of our community. Learning spaces are to be spaces that connect students with their community, to people, to places, and to deepen and expand their learning. As educators, we understand that it is not only our lesson plans that teach, but also the environment we create for our students that teaches something to our students. Think of it this way. When on a tour of a historical city, it is not only the tour guide that prompts us to expand our thinking. It is the sights and the sounds, the smells and the touch of the city that sparks our interest and our curiosity. We can use the walls in our school to create an environment where all students, using the principles of universal design, can interact and reflect on learning to broaden their curiosity. This can be achieved with providing our students with windows to the world to broaden their schema and interactive walls and floor spaces to spark new energy and learning. Cornell University found that on average, students of primary age spend 9 hours per day sitting. In contrast, Stuart L. Brown, president of the National Institute for Play, states, if you look at what produces learning and memory and well-being, play is as fundamental as any other aspect of life. Our students need to be playing. 7% of first graders in the United States now get no recess at all, with many more having their minutes drastically cut. The poorer the school, the less time that is dedicated to it. We understand the importance of play at MES, just as the inside of our school plan is dedicated to the full development of the child, so will our outdoor areas of play. Much what Mr. Eichenauer talked about with also extending areas of STEM and exploration around our school. Thank you so much, MCS Board, for your attention and your consideration of our plan at Manchester Elementary School. Our plan to take the next level of child-centered academics to a level that will all our students and our community. Thank you.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask? Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
I just want to say thank you to the MES team. You guys have been amazing. You put a lot of time and effort into it. I appreciate all the research that went into it, as well as all the community people that you have involved. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Can't thank you enough. I appreciate it.
They're gonna take off, let's give them a round of applause. What do you need?
Just the blue.
The map, how do you have the map?
Oh, I'm sorry.
While they get that hooked up, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Tommy Baldwin. I am the principal at Manchester Intermediate School. With me tonight, I've got 3 of my core team members that have worked with me throughout this process. Quite literally, one of the first things that I did upon being hired into the district was start with strategic planning. And so literally this has been something that I and my staff have been working on now since I got hired in. And you know, like Mrs. Corris did, I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to those that are here and those that are not here, because they've put in innumerable hours in helping plan and prepare for us to get to this point where we're at tonight. And along with that, I'd also like to thank our parents that, you know, participated in numerous parent support groups, as well as, you know, gave input, you know, online via email communication, via an occasional Zoom meeting, and our student body. You know, at the intermediate school level, you know, a lot of times we think that you know, maybe students are still too young to be able to give valuable input, but you know, our kids were really able to take some ownership in this process. You know, our student council is filled with, you know, approximately 16 to 20 of the best and brightest, you know, kids who are now 5th, 6th, and 7th graders this year, since we started the process last year. And they really valued, you know, that adults were asking them the things that they would like to see in their school, or the things that, you know, they don't see in their school that maybe they would like to if they really had a chance to enact some positive change in their school building. So if any of you have ever read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, you know, one of those 7 characteristics is to begin with the end in mind. And, you know, ultimately, that was kind of what we were tasked with MIS. You know, the big question hanging over MIS has continued to not be who, what, when, or why. It's been where. You know, where for the future will MIS be? And I think everybody that sat in a room, at least as an adult, maybe not the students so much, understood that that was kind of the overarching question for the future of Manchester Intermediate School, was where would the physical building be located? And, you know, thinking through that process and working through that process and looking at the needs of the current building in Laketon and this current building here, ultimately through, you know, some painstaking conversations, you know, we came to the determination that this site here, for multiple reasons, would be the best place to house a future Manchester Intermediate School. And so, you know, I'm just going to go through and quickly detail some of those, you know, issues real quick, and then discuss, you know, the blueprint that we kind of have as a diving board, a jumping board to go forward. our presentation looks a little bit different than that of MES and that of the junior senior high school because, we're looking at completely redoing an existing space that's going to take a lot of time for our core team and our community partners to be able to sit down and actually work with architects to see what that's going to look like. I mean, if you look and have a chance to look at these drawings here, literally the entire thing is covered in purple. The scope of the project in this building is quite large. But if we are looking at creating a space that is best for learners in the 21st century, that's kind of what we have to do here. This building was built for education in the 1970s. The building in Laketon was built for what was best in education in the 1980s. So in order to really provide our kids with an adequate space to learn, whichever building was renovated would need to be updated and pretty much completely redone in order to make that adequate. Probably the biggest factor in considering moving MIS here into town is safety and security. That was something that I talked a lot with our staff about, those that have been there a long time. Talked to Officer Nate Birch about, we had multiple conversations about the issues of the building in Laketon where it is. A lot of it has to do with response time and who responds. We have an agreement with the North Manchester Police Department to come to our building as part of an SRO, but realistically, we're not in North Manchester proper, And if sheriffs are called on to respond to our building, depending on where they're at in the county, the response time could be 2-3 times that of North Manchester Police responding to this site here. Just physically getting any kind of law enforcement or ambulance or fire. We have the volunteer fire department, but it takes those volunteers time to get to the station, to get to the equipment, to get to the building. Being here would lessen that response time quite frequently, or by quite a bit. The other thing is, I feel like here in this location, we're alongside the junior senior high school. This is the junior senior high school land. One thing that I deal with quite frequently at our building in Laketon is people on the school property that are not supposed to be on the school property, traveling from Laketon along the path along the rear of the school to get to the lake. Quite frequently at recess, our recess monitors have to bring kids away from the playground and field area because there are people walking that trail out there. That's a safety and security issue because of the location of our building. And, it's something that I believe would be remedied by moving the physical location of the building here into town. Something else that moving here into town would afford us is the opportunity to piggyback off of resources that might be available at the junior senior high school. We share a lot of staff right now with the junior senior high school in terms of our music department. We also share staff in terms of other specials, and it would afford our kids an opportunity potentially to engage in some offerings that they have at the junior senior high school. Maybe we could get our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders involved in ag. Maybe we could get them involved in other programmings earlier if we were here, as opposed to having teachers have to travel to and from Laketon every day in order to get those opportunities for kids. That was one thing that our students really lamented is, our specials are okay, but I'd like to diversify a little bit. I'd like to be able to start learning a foreign language in the elementary school. I'd like to participate, in agriculture and things like that. We've got great FFA programs. We've got great foreign language programs at the high school that do a lot of things. And our kids know that because they have neighbors, they have cousins, they have older siblings that have had the opportunity to do those things. And they see the value in it, and they're advocating for themselves to be able to have those opportunities as well. While we're on the topic of, I keep saying the future of MIS, the staff and the parents in our parent group as well really value the opportunity for MIS to remain MIS, a 4th through 6th grade intermediate school building. And just to echo that point, Nancy Handback would like to say a couple words about her philosophy in terms of being an intermediate school.
Thanks. I just wanted to talk to you all because every time we have this conversation, the fourth grade team always starts looking at one another. Where are we going to be? Where are they going to put us? We were moved out to MIS, I don't know how many years ago. But I just want to reinforce to you how we have grown into that position. We feel like fourth grade is still elementary. Those kids come to us and we give them a safety net as we're teaching them not only the academics but the life skills of being, what do I want to say, being prepared, I've lost the word for it, just preparing for the time when they're going to have to change classes, when they're going to have lockers. Right now they come to us, they have a desk, they have a cubby, they have one teacher pretty much throughout the day. So they have like a home place. But we're preparing them to be ready for fifth grade when they start changing more classes, when they have to think about what materials they need for the next class, how to act in the hall, how to be responsible, how to be respectful. So we do that with our fourth graders as a bridge. We're taking them beyond elementary and getting them ready for intermediate, which in turn will get them ready for junior high. So I just wanted to reinforce that as a fourth grade team, we really feel like our place is a 4, 5, 6 building where we can be that bridge between the elementary and moving forward. And we have really nicely made a place for ourselves in doing that for those students. And I would hate to see that go. Thank you.
You know, anecdotally, in the fall of 1998, you know, I was an incoming fifth grade student in Mechanical School Corporation, not too far from here. At that time, Mechanical was undergoing some, you know, consolidation, some reconstruction of their own. In the fifth grade that year, it was decided would be moved out of both Pipe Creek Elementary School and Mechanical Elementary School, and they would move the fifth grade into Mechanical Middle School. One part of a wing of the school would be the fifth grade. And they did, they made that decision quickly. And I can tell you, having lived that and not having the opportunity to have that bridge and be put in there with those middle schoolers, it was a terrifying year for a lot of us that experienced that. You know, we're in there rubbing shoulders with eighth graders every day. And I think something that we have here at Manchester in terms of having an intermediate school is not something that is seen in very many districts. You know, this is the first district I've been an administrator in, but in terms of teaching and coaching, I've been involved in a lot of different districts, and I think what we have here is an asset, and I think that what we have here, you know, we do very, very, very well. And we continue to move those kids on in developmentally appropriate ways. Like Mrs. Handback said, you know, we bring our fourth graders over and they get their first taste in fourth grade of what it's like to switch a class. They switch for math class. And then in fifth grade, you know, as fourth graders, they start looking at what it's like to have a locker and having your own personal space. And then in fifth grade, they get their lockers and they switch for a couple of classes. And then in sixth grade, they have their lockers and they're switching multiple periods of the day. And they are ready and they are prepared to go to the junior, senior high school and experience all of those things because we have taken them year by year and gradually introduced those. And I don't think, you know, and it might be successful to change the makeup, I don't know. But I know for a fact that, you know, everyone on our team, we value ourselves as Manchester Intermediate School. And we are hopeful for the opportunity to move Manchester Intermediate School into this space, to work with some great architects to design this space to meet the needs of our building, and to continue giving our kids in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade those experiences that are going to not only challenge them in the present, but prepare them for their future as they move on to what's next in their lives. Thank you. Do y'all have any questions?
I do. So I sat here about a year ago and I heard about a third grade class that we knew was in trouble. or maybe it was fourth grade, the testing scores, and we knew they were in trouble for several years or something like that. And I'm looking at $7.2 million is a lot of money to me, you know. And I look at this as an investment. How does that address that? Then the stuff in this building currently, does this plan cover what's in here and what needs to move?
What's in here and what needs to move? I would say that the plan, do you mean in terms of people or in terms of physical?
Functions in here. What's in this building right now?
I do believe that the plan includes renovating this space and moving things out that would not be a part of this space. For example, part of that plan includes adding the kitchen space and making sure that we had a serviceable kitchen, which it doesn't have right now. That's included in the plan. To answer your first question about the struggling kids who last year they would have been fourth graders, last year they were fifth graders, this year they are sixth graders. We've implemented building-wide flex time this year. Flex time is where we do our RTI, our remediation. We saw that as a need for these kids, and they continue to grow, bit by bit. Their middle of the year testing scores, we just got those back, they grew. They still were not maybe at the same level of the peers that are a grade above them or a grade below them, but they are showing growth. So, it's not going to be a process where all of a sudden they make a miraculous jump. It's going to be slow work. It was work that was started when they were at the elementary school, and it's work that we're continuing while they're at the intermediate school, and it's work that they will continue with this group of kids when they get to the junior, senior high school. But they continue to show growth because of the interventions that we're putting in place now.
And when we sat down with Dana, that was pie in the sky, let's figure out what we can do, and it basically was gutting and starting over. He just threw out some ideas, so we know we'd have to sit down with him. We're talking because the ceiling replacement, lighting, the MAO still would be here, so lots of just conversations. We know we're way over on the budget with doing this building, but we also know Dana was saying there's so many things that we can do to get those costs down. So it's just really of sitting down and working with them through all of those pieces. And I would just say curriculum-wise, you have the same STEM focus and you have other things like that you're doing that you didn't really talk much about, but you did in your first presentation when you started. And I'm guessing that's what you're talking about as far as programming. What are we offering for MIS to make sure we're continuing to take them to the next level as well, right?
Yeah, well,
I thought that's
colonoscopy, they cut up my throat when they did it, so my memory's not as good, but I thought we were having a conversation about one of the problems with those third graders, that third grade class was them being shifted, that for the fourth grade is shifting that back to MES, so I may be off base on that, but I just want to make sure that, I don't ever really want to hear that again, it's like, I almost felt like we were kind of blaming the parents and the kids, for poor aptitude. It's not like that in school. D and C kids are just as good as A and B kids, and this, this high aptitude and all this, this good stuff, every kid in our school system is a good kid, the way I look at it.
Well, I don't think anybody ever called them bad kids. They're kids that, right now their scores are showing that they're at a certain level, and it's our job to continue to have them seek and show growth. That's the point, and they're showing growth. If it came across as those kids are less than A students, that's not what it's about. It's our job. If I've got 140 students in a grade level, it's my job to make sure that we are having 140 students show growth, whether they are a top achiever or whether we're just trying to get them from a first grade level to a second grade level and they're in the fourth grade. That's what it's all about.
Well, you said the right word, intervention, right? Because when they struggle, we got to step in and we got to help them. So thank you.
Quick question for you. How many usable classrooms do you have at Laketon right now?
How many usable classrooms?
Not just being taught in, but like used for other purposes too.
If you would count rooms like former labs and things like that, we have approximately 16 to 18 classrooms. that would include things like an old computer lab. There's an additional classroom if you include the Head Start room, which we currently rent out to Area 5. This year we have a room that we unfortunately have to use for, a COVID containment room. So, 16 to 18 is about what we, normally, have and are able to use, but, some of those are not at our disposal this year because of different things. A former kindergarten classroom is our custodial office at this point. So classrooms that are usable, 16 to 18, but there are a couple of additional classrooms that are being used for things other than working with students.
Well, thank you. I noticed that you had 12 classrooms here for the core. Is MIS willing to lose space and resources because of going down into this building? Instead of 16 to 18 classrooms, you're going to have 12?
Well, that would be for your core 4th, 5th, and 6th grade staff. But there's also, if you look, there's classrooms for STEM, classrooms for special education, your specials classes. Those are classrooms that we currently use as well in terms of our collaborative space. So like our paraprofessional staff, you'll frequently find them in the morning, since we only have half-day specials, using the art room to run small groups, using the media center to run small groups, using a computer lab that houses a study hall to run small groups. So we're anticipating having 12 classrooms for our core content for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, but then those other additional classrooms, those can be used for collaborative groups as well, to run small groups and things of that nature.
Say we grow, heaven forbid, but no, I'm hoping we grow. Say we grow, being optimistic. Is 12 going to be enough? Would you take over other classroom spaces for that?
This plan right here, I think, addresses our current need. This does not account for any sort of, exponential growth that we may have in terms of the future. This is right now for MIS to move into this building, what we would need to make that happen.
And what's your classroom size now, currently?
Depending on the grade level, student-teacher ratio, I'd say approximately 1 to, in our grades with 4 teachers, we're looking at 1 to anywhere from 23 to 26 for the most part. Right now, 6th grade, their student-teacher ratio is roughly the same, but they have 5 sections. But this current 6th grade class also is our largest class in terms of students in the building at this point.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We paid for a facility audit in 2017, 2019, that gives the capacities of the building. Was that considered in making this decision about 4, 5, 6, which no decision's been made yet? But, each one of these buildings has a maximum capacity that it was designed for. Was that taken into consideration? And Mr. Hensley's right, the discussion a year ago was about the 4th grade and about the low performing. And I've heard a couple different conversations. One, that stage in human development maybe needs a little bit more of a cocoon. And looking at this plan here for the STEM, or not STEM, but the dual language, if we put 4th, 5th, and 6th in here, there's no plan to put a 4th grade Spanish teacher over here, is there? If they're over there, they would get that extra year of Spanish. Is that correct?
I would say that would be correct. We did not have any dual language immersion as part of our plan.
Okay. So did we look at the capacity of the buildings?
I personally did not. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Tommy, morale-wise, does being out there ostracize your staff, or do you feel like that, or? Because I see in industry sometimes when we have what's called satellite plants or something like that, they just don't feel like part of it. So that's just a general question. I didn't know if that,
I don't know, and I'm not going to speak for them, but I don't know that ostracized is necessarily the right word. I think that it somewhat limits opportunity. For example, if we wanted to do collaboration with the high school or, 6th and 7th grade. Right now, we have to find time for our teachers to drive in town, come in here, do the collaboration, and get back, if we wanted to use a Wednesday morning. So you have to equate drive time and travel time, and that takes away from their ability to be able to use that time together. We've tried that a few times, and we always have to, dip out early to go back to MIS, and that takes away from it. And so, I don't know that ostracize is the right word, but it is definitely a consideration. I don't think that, we feel forgotten about, but I just think that if we were in this space, it would be a more efficient use of our time and our resources, and it would give us more of an ability to do some things collaboratively that we haven't been able to do in the past.
Thank you.
Immersion, Spanish immersion, they move it up each year, so it would eventually probably come over to us in 4th grade, wherever that may be.
Did you guys hear that? So it would continue to move, so that would be a consideration in the future potentially, but.
Yeah, and that's 5 years away, so
Right, and-
that certainly can be a plan down the road. It's just, at this point, MES is the one that wanted to bring it in. That's where it's starting. We have 5 years to make a determination about 4th grade.
Having been in both buildings, I was here, I was there, there is that feeling of you're out there. You're not ostracized by any means, but you are out there, and there are advantages to being in here. I'm going to do the swimming unit. When junior high kids did the swimming unit, you walked across there, you got back, you didn't hire buses, you didn't have that. When I listened to how the 6th grade and the 4th grade, don't you guys swim too? The deals they go through to get buses, you spend half a day to go swimming, and you mess up your whole day to go swimming. Over here, you just walked across and came back. I mean, that's just one for instance. And I mean, you can get to so many things when you're over here. And just like collaborating, you can't do it. We can collaborate over here, back and forth across the driveway, you just walk. Out there, you are kind of like, ooh, you're out there. Ooh, you're way out there, It's like, what? I mean, when I moved out there, I thought it was a big joke. No, that's how you are. You're like, way out there, It's like, it's 5 minutes, people. But it's kind of how you are. You're not ostracized, but it's kind of a joke. But there is time.
Maybe isolated is a better word, or
Yeah, I mean,
that point, like Nate
But
said.
because I've been in both buildings, I have the feeling of both. And you're not forgotten or anything, but there is that travel time, and there are things you can and can't do because there is that distance. And there are advantages to being in here closer to everybody. You look at the high school kids that can help in your classrooms. It's harder to get them to come out there as opposed to just walk across here and help in your classroom. There's just little things like that that can help out.
Well, I mean, when we look at this, it's a pretty big plan. And eventually we're going to sell this to our community, those that are paying for it. So that's why I'm asking these questions, just to better understand and then have really some ammo or some basis of what we're looking at. You're right. In industry, I teach them, lean. And your ways to transport motion, waiting, searching, things like that are one of the biggest wastes that we incur in industry. So as you got, I'm trying to bring this around how to sell it with the right thing. Ostracize, probably not a good word. Isolate, it means you're disconnected a bit, and there's additional cost and time that is basically wasted in education because of that. So thank you.
And if you look at other ancillary benefits of moving into town too, I mean, you talk about transportation. Right now, the majority of our student population, they get to Laketon via the bus hub. We could have more students that could potentially walk to school or ride a bike to school. That's another issue that we could think about by consolidating our resources and moving, our building here into town. We understand this is not the final conversation in regard to this, and everything that we have written, it's written pretty firmly in pencil, but there are things and changes that are going to happen. That's the nature of this process. but, you know, we've worked now since, you know, August of 2019, you know, it seems like it's been a while ago, because it has, on preparing us to be able to get to this point. And, you know, if it feels like that we still have much further to go in this process than the other two buildings, well, that's probably true, because there are, you know, probably more considerations and more logistical considerations when it comes to our building than either of the others.
And Tammy, I don't know if you'll remember this, but when I was on my walkthrough for my interview, I stopped and spoke with you, and this was a concern you gave me a year and a half ago, so this is not anything new. This was something I remember day one. Actually, I wasn't even hired yet, and you and I had that conversation, so I find it interesting we're still there having those conversations, so. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Dory what she thinks. She's worked in all three buildings, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot.
No, I would echo what Tammy says. You know, ostracized definitely wasn't the word, which is okay, but you do feel isolated. You know, a lot of times people would say, oh, you work way out there, just like Tammy said. We used to do collaboration as a 5th grade team with 4th grade, and we'd come in, and as soon as we got started, we had to pack up and head right back out. And just, you know, the convenience of being close would obviously, you know, there's a lot of benefits. I mean, all of these plans that we're going over with you guys tonight is for us to benefit our students, for us to benefit, you know, the education of our students in our community. And so, I mean, it's not for us. Yeah, you know, we've given our input, and these are things that we would propose, but obviously all those proposals are for the education of our students. But yeah, I mean, I agree with exactly what Tammy said. It's more of an isolation, and just the convenience of being closer would probably benefit everybody educationally and financially.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and, you know, we look forward to continuing working on this process to give the best that we can for our MIS students. Thank you.
Thank you, MIS staff. You guys have been amazing.
Good evening. I'm John Lippy, principal at Manchester Junior Senior High School. And I just think when we talk about the disconnect or ostracize, you got to keep in mind just about 3 or 4 miles south of here is the Huntington North line, and then it goes clear down to Southern Wells, and then you come up here maybe 3 miles north of town at the Kosciuszko line, and Warsaw District goes clear up to Napanee. I mean, now it's almost like a change in culture from one side of that county to the other, the one south of us. So, you know, we value a small system like what we have here, and it's not we have our challenges, but boy, I value these challenges over some of the other challenges some of our surrounding districts have. So I also want to take a minute, just tell my staff that's here tonight and MIS and MES, we greatly value your time. You guys have been involved with this now a year and a half or so, more than a year and a half. And I think some of them went into this thinking, you know, a couple months in, we'll have this figured out, we'll propose it to the board, they'll make a decision, we'll get an architect, and we'll move forward. And it's just been a long process. So what I'd like to share with you guys and the new board members is it has been a long process. And each one of these guys that are sitting in here have been like a spider web out there connecting with your community. So, and Mike, I'm with you. We got to sell people on this, but they're doing that. I mean, that's what we've been trying to do all along. We've been trying to build that capacity, our community buying into this. I mean, countless meetings. I mean, we've got the kids involved. We had community leaders together. We brought in business leaders. We brought in business leaders down from the OrthoWorks group to kind of just give us an idea of what you want in your workers when we move up there. We've had this conversation a few years ago, and I know Dylan's jumped into there and some of the other kids. So, which, you know, it's a journey, and we certainly haven't arrived, and it's going to be a few more years before we've got everything in place, but I really do value their input. You've got some experts out here, and so I brought them with me to kind of help answer some questions. If you're asking like, why in the world was that a priority, or can you talk a little bit on that? So we got to go back to this, and this is kind of what culminated from about a year of research, meetings. We heard all kinds of input, like Amy said. And we went through the exact same exemplars, for just in case you didn't catch that. The elementary, intermediate school, junior, senior high school, we all are connected with the same exemplars. So we're not going to go back through those again. Amy did a great job, her team did a great job with that. But this is what rose to the top. And I know a lot of you, even before you became on the board, you were able to give us these ideas. And those things that harmonized with others rose to the top. The singlets kind of fell down. So there's a lot of ideas that came out that didn't necessarily rise because we just didn't hear that connect with the community. Didn't mean it wasn't important. Didn't mean it wasn't a good idea, but it just didn't harmonize. And these are the things that rose up. And so on curriculum, I'm not going to read through all these, but I'm going to hit some of the highlights. The Business Innovation Center, we're kind of right now a pilot for the state of Indiana for CTE programs of studies on the horizon. We've got our counselors are just doing a fantastic job. I want to thank Sue too for all the work she put into that with an evolving situation here. And I think our kids are going to benefit, but it is certainly a moving target with what we got to provide our kids so they can walk out here with a diploma, walk out with certifications, maybe Lean Six Sigma, and everything else. And we're still connecting with a very important part of who we are just south of here, Heartland Career Center. And, they're a big part of everything we do, and it will continue to be and probably grow. Second on the list here, advanced manufacturing. That is probably something that can help this community either grow, save it, whatever you want to say. We're in the hotbed of the Midwest advanced manufacturing, and the orthopedics just north of here, and one's right in town, and we're trying to attract some more of those down here. They'll tell you they just don't have enough workers. There's 300 openings right now in Warsaw, 300 for somebody just walks in there. And they're going to have to train you themselves. Well, what if we were able to do that for them? That's what we want to build into our core classes, is some of the basics for that. And I think this plan, the plan that we're showing you, will accomplish that. Invest in long-term existing programs. We've got a fantastic FACS ag program. Are you kidding me? There's not a better ag program in the state. That's a pillar for us. That's a pillar. And we've got the expert right in here with us tonight. Business. Shelley is the business department, but it is becoming just a growing pillar for us, doing a great job. And, and of course, Aaron Hooks with our advanced manufacturing. We kind of put some pieces there for kids that can't necessarily make the trip south, although we value what they do. You can get certified down there in Heartland, but we want to be able to augment what kids that are staying here, what options they have, and that'll also help on our programs of study. Some of these equipment needs that we listed here that rose to the top, again, hundreds of voices. Some of these things we've started to pick off. They don't even have to be a part of future planning. The ag tables, I think we ended up purchasing. We got a grant from the Spirit Pump. I know you spoke on that last board meeting. The Spirit Pump, we got our ag tables checked off on that. We've got our iPads now for our math department. That's been a growing, we've heard that for the last few years, right? We've been working hard on that. We appreciate, I know Tony's not here, but we so appreciate Tony and there's Tony's right there. Sorry.
Well, who's that? Who's that guy?
He's wearing camo or something over there. It's got that black right there. Appreciate Tony and his team for supporting that. And again, we focused on learning. That was our focus all the way through. What's best for kids, focus on that, and good things happen. And so appreciate that, Tony. That's a little difference in philosophy. We kind of ran a course in some cases with the iPads, but our math team really felt like that was a difference maker, so we appreciate that. And we've also kind of delved in a little bit of some of the other equipment. we had a desire for kids to be able to present. And we needed a nice podium to do that. We're also requesting a nice space to be able to do that. Go ahead and bring that up some if you could, Missy. That's good. And that's something we just kept hearing over and over and over again, was a big collaborative space. Some place where there's screens, several places on the walls. Kids can work collaboratively. They could share to every screen from their little workstation, and they could collaborate through that. And then we feel like we've got a proposal here that can accomplish that. A big part of this was our food service and kitchen area. And, you know, Becky's talked, we kind of went into this kind of thinking pie in the sky, but we also know that, you know, we've got to make some concessions a little bit. So, Becky, do you want to speak a little bit on that and on kind of where we were and kind of what we evolved in? We got a you know, a proposed kind of rendition from Dana to kind of show you how it kind of accomplishes some of these things. Becky, you want to speak a little bit on that?
Okay, yeah, I did start out with the pie in the sky, because if you don't dream big, you don't have any chance at all to get even a portion of what you would like to have or what you'd see. But a few years ago, when we had security issues, when things were happening in the world that happen now that we didn't have to deal with when I was in school, active shooters and various things, our 7th graders have to walk across the parking lot for lunch, you know, bad weather, wet weather, whatever. It's not ideal. I know students have to walk back and forth from class, and so my pie in the sky, I'm just going to be honest, was maybe a space in between the two buildings that we could put classrooms, a cafeteria that could feed both sides of the school, meet all the nutritional requirements, which some of you heard the last time I spoke, and hopefully maybe, I don't know, grow or whatever. That's pie in the sky. I can accept a lot less than that. I would just be happy if there was enough chairs for everybody to sit down that I didn't have a parent call me and say my child stayed up during lunch. That's not right. So we need a bigger space. We need some place for them to eat. I envision something that they see in the commercial world. I also spoke to this the last time. I feel like that we're also teaching them, yeah, we're just the lunch ladies, but we can also teach them how to go out and have a good meal, how to make some good choices in what they eat so that maybe some health problems will be averted, and also introduce them into some concepts that they might not have in their own home and could use, for instance, asparagus. You know, there might be some students, well, actually I know there are, because the first time we served asparagus, there were kids who thought they were really strange looking green beans. So we can introduce them to other things, and we do need some space and a place to do it. The world has changed. You should come in on a morning. The place is already filled. Sometimes it's filled before I get there, even, because this is a safe place for them to be. And I've had students who actually show up on a 2-hour delay and they're already at school because mom and dad are gone and maybe they didn't hear the message or whatever the disconnect was, and they're already at school. And I've seen some kids out there sleeping. I've seen kids come in and they don't really eat breakfast with us maybe, but they're there with their friends. Maybe they're catching up on their homework that they didn't get done last night for whatever reason. We won't go into that. And it has become a place for them to socialize, to study, maybe a place of safety, and also for that they need some charging stations. We have about 3 outlets, and that isn't near enough either. So maybe a little more intuitive space for all types of things that could happen there besides just eating. Okay, that was longer than I intended.
All right, thank you. Missy, go ahead and take us up. So,
hold on a second there, Coach. Just thinking out loud, if she were to dream big and get that, before, we're not going to decide anything tonight, could we charge the 3 of you with thinking that if she dreamed big and got that cafeteria between the two buildings, what you would reuse that space for? Thinking out loud, like maybe put industrial arts back there and classrooms where industrial arts is now?
Again, the answer to that is absolutely. So what this team was charged with doing is telling you what the priorities are. These are the priorities. How we get there, that's an architect. I mean, they kind of show us some things, and I think one of the first things we saw, you know, it was like, it was a little bit of pie in the sky there, but we're also cognizant of the world we're living in right now, in our community right now. And so, you know, we know that it's not a blank check. And so we want to be cognizant of that. We want to be mindful and responsible. And certainly if the community buys into that, and we've got a lot of support for this plan, then certainly we'll, you know, that would be tiered lecture hall. It could be end up being the collaborative space. Absolutely. We would be able to put a good use to that space. So the answer to that is yes. And she's amazing. I mean, she's amazing. So, you know, obviously if we find a way to make Pie in the Sky work for Becky Landis, I think we're all in for that. So,
Because she makes great pies.
This is a long list, and you've got to put together a plan. We've got these are just some of the comments that are made, just kind of supporting as we went through some of the work sessions. If you could go to the next document then, the map. That's the MHS one, yeah. So, you know, we brought this plan forward, priorities, and we listed those things that rose to the top. And then we also know that you can't just get everything at one time. There's got to be a plan put together. This is years 1 through 3. This is an option of 1 through 3. This might be what it looks like. So, also knowing that we've got 2 other schools planning, we have to make sure that we sync with those plans. So obviously if their plans change, this plan would have to change. This right here, this option that we're presenting tonight, or just one of the options that we feel like could get to some of these things. And again, this was presented to Dana by Jeremy and Teresa, and then they came back and shared with me just take this back to your team. What do you think? I mean, you're not going to get everything in year 1 through 3. I don't think any one of us ever dreamed that was going to happen. We know we just got to be a part of the process. And so now what you're seeing here, and it's hard to get the whole thing up here, but this is the front of the school. And this is your entrance right here to the school. This would be like where you come in, like the little breeze area, main office area. Then on through here, you've got like the media center. Up there's large group room. The cafeteria is up there in the upper right. And so what Dana proposed to try to meet these priorities that we listed was, and also taking in mind that you've got to work with MIS possibly coming up here, and we know that is a possibility. We would have an addition out here. We would gut this current office area, make those classrooms. I believe Dana thought he could get 5 classrooms in here. This would now be your secure entrance to the school, key fobs, and new office area. And this is a little bit of your pop you get with any building project. I don't think you're going to spend millions on pop, but that's your pop as you walk in and it hits you in the solar plexus. Like, wow, this is something else. You get that when you walk into our commons area now. When you come in as a visitor into a sporting event, to a basketball game, you're like, holy cow, look at this. You go down the commons, it's amazing. And so the front of school would have a little bit of that. You know, it's got its place, but you know, you've got to be mindful of cost. But anyway, these become classrooms. This also allows us now to take the 7th grade in. One of the things that really inhibited us with taking the 7th grade is because right now it's almost every classroom's used over here. And so if you're going to bring the 7th grade over, if you were going to do that before the building project, you're going to have a lot of teachers on carts. And it's just tough to be really effective when you got a teacher, 4 or 5 of them on a cart. I mean, that's tough. And it's tough to hold on to a good teacher if you're going to put them on a cart as their way of living, changing classrooms every period. So this would help us evolve into bringing on the 7th grade, opening this up for whatever it ends up being, whether it's a 4, 5, 6, or whatever it turns into. The media center, you're going to break some walls down here. These walls kind of go away. They're flexible walls. We're going to have a renovation in the cafeteria. Becky gets a little bit of her dream. We've already talked about what some of those things, maybe some bar seating, additional outlets, maybe some really cool tabletops that we've looked at. Maybe need some grant money or go find a donor for that. But hey, just throw it out there. Throw your hat across the fence, find a way to go get it. And then this would turn into your Business Innovation Center, where we currently kind of have a bean, a little coffee shop that we're running out, kind of provides a pathway for our kids. It's certainly something kids connect with. Again, it's something people see when they come out. I think it's a little bit of a marketing piece too. And we've really found a lot of success with that. And we're selling student merchandise out of that. So we'd have all of that located in this area. We'd incorporate our bigger media center space, presentation area here. These would become classrooms. Okay, that's the picture. And then we also have what's in there. Now this is flexible. I mean, we'd have to sit with an architect and talk about what looks like in there. But that accomplishes what your experts and your community members have kind of indicated to us are priorities. With learning being the center of that. We really did. We try to keep learning first. Do you have questions before I flip to more of a breakdown on what is in years 1 through 3? Or we can always pop back to this.
John, I would say too, there's classrooms above.
Yeah, this
that
is 2 stories.
entryway, So 7th grade could all be right there, 7th, 8th, whatever. So, and then those walls are open from the bean, the cafeteria, and the media center. So it's a great, big, huge space for collaboration. That's what Dana recommended. So.
Again, it's kind of blank canvas in here right now. That's blank canvas. We'd have to sit with the experts out here and tell them, how does it accomplish your needs? Cost effective, no blank checks. We get that.
I got a question for you. Does 7 through 12 all have locker space in the high school?
Currently right now it's 8 through 12 at the high school. But again, we are seeing our numbers come down. I mean, we'd love to know that they're going to come back up. We have the ability to add more lockers, but we've got a lot of the lockers not being used currently as well.
Okay, I didn't know.
It would be close. I wouldn't sit there and tell you we can bring the 7th grade over, everybody's going to have a locker, but it's close. We could supplement. There's a few hallways. I wouldn't want to run banks on both sides of the hallways for congestion, but we could add it if we needed lockers.
Are the lockers even being used now under COVID?
Well, and COVID, no. I mean, they all were assigned a locker. They could use them to put their coat in the morning. They stop there on the way home, but they don't use them in between classes right now. I mean, we kind of took that off the table to keep the flow going, keep congestion. So the answer to that right now during COVID, no. Very few kids are using lockers. They're using their backpacks. We kind of put that policy on the side so that we could get kids face to face. But we're going to, the hope is we get back to that.
How are you going to handle the lunch issue?
What lunch issue?
Dana already said that we were like right at max capacity, and we got 8th graders eating lunch with 12th graders.
So, and I could speak to that. I could speak to that just to clarify that a little bit. So, because of dietary restrictions, 7 and 8 eat B alone. It's a middle lunch. We have 3 lunches. So 7 and 8 are exclusively by themselves. Took some finagling, but we were able to pull that off. And in 1st and 3rd lunches, we have Heartland kids in those, as well as 9 through 12 kids. I think the older kids are usually probably towards C lunch, 9 through 10 more through A lunch, but they're mixed. There's 9 through 12 in all those. But now a few years ago, what you said is right. I think we would have had 7, 8, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11, 12 all together, but it's a good thing that we don't do that anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. And it's because it was dietary reasons, but there's a plus on the other side of that too.
So you're working on it.
Yeah. And you know, we lean on Becky, and right now we do have enough seating for those all 3 lunches, and we are very spaced out right now. I mean, I'm running them all the way down to Commons. If you guys have come in for volleyball or basketball through the fall, you know that I've got tables running all the way down both sides of the Commons. Why? We value having kids face-to-face. If that's what we got to do to have kids to face-to-face, that's what we want to do. And the staff bought into that. You know, there's some logistics to that, but kids are face-to-face. It's the best thing.
What about Dana's recommendation to change the furniture in the cafeteria? As a temporary solution?
I don't know that I'm on board. I don't know if I know what that is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was talking about getting rid of the round tables and going to long, straight ones. That was in his 2019 facility audit.
Yeah, and I think, again, in the future, yes, right now we get to set 3 to a circular table. We didn't have to buy extra tables. We had the tables. So I know Becky has some ideas for what the seating would look like in there. And I really lean on her for that. And she's your expert.
Thank you.
And now I can run through this too. Do you want me to hit the year 1 through 3, Teresa? Or?
If you'd like to.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So again, long list of priorities. It wasn't a small list. You know, I think if you talk to the team, they feel like it's kind of our turn. This building's been set dormant for a long time with no building projects. So they'll tell you that, you know, just like any older house, needs some renovating, needs some new things in there. And again, I think we need to be responsible. We need to make sure we're using good efficiency, make sure the focus is on learning. But we want to kind of focus in on this side, and that's very small print. But it's year 1 through 3. Obviously, you got 4 through 6, 4 through 6. There's some other years that will connect with some of those other pieces. But this is the big part of what would be proposed for years 1 through 3. Again, I think the thought is, and again, I'm not the finance guy. The thought is, though, as debt rolls off, a bond, you're not going to see a drop or increase in taxes. I think that's the best of both worlds. That's what we all want. Nobody wants to see their taxes go up. A proposal like this, a bond, would kind of sync with that. And so I'll go down. I mean, it's very small. And do you guys have access to that at your seats? So maybe these guys don't. But so you get a new office with secure entrance, 1.17 mil. Remodel existing office, creating 5 classrooms. They're just short of $1 million. Renovate media center to learning commons. That's close to $1 million. And I will tell you that part of the project was something we just heard again and again and again. That multimedia classroom where all the dongles are, all the connections are synced with teacher computers, student Chromebooks. That just, there probably wasn't anything I heard more than that. Relocate the main computer room. Again, that's a classroom now. Classrooms would go above the office. That again gives us additional room to house the 7th graders. That's another $500,000. Key fob for 15 entries. Again, just increasing security. That's $75,000. Battery operated water faucets. Again, so you're saving on water. We're just pinching our pennies, and that's cost effective. Security cameras, you know, we've got a lot of cameras right now. We use those cameras a lot. Our SROs, our assistant principal, uses those cameras. It's every day. And do we have some blind spots? Sure. but it's not as much as the blind spots as just bringing up to speed what we've been using now for over a decade. Over a decade, right? Close? Okay, all right, 7 years. Resurface paint to tennis courts. So, we've got some cracks developing out there. That's a safety hazard. That's something we normally work into a maintenance schedule anyway, along with the track. That's just something that we used to put in a CPF or a capital projects fund, but again, that could build into years 1 through 3. A digital sign, we've heard that. And I know that was something that we talked under the Dr. Reichart years and Mr. Pettibone, and for one reason or another, that was just kind of always put aside. But again, we want to advertise events. We want to make sure that we're getting out there, connecting with the public with what we have going on inside our doors and invite them in. Now, obviously, we're restricted right now due to COVID, but that's not going to be around forever. We want to try to get that gym, those auditoriums packed for theater for whatever, robotics competitions, whatever we got going, and that kind of helps us get the word out.
What street would you put the sign on?
That's a great question. We had that question. We've got the marquee right now on 9th, but I'm not so sure it shouldn't go on Market Street.
If you're wanting people for basketball or sporting events and performing arts center events, it'd probably be better on Market, but you're right.
We had that conversation, and we even talked about maybe we should put it up on the building. We've got a great big section of auditorium. Should you put it up there? Well, then when we talked to the sign guy about 3 years ago, he said that's going to look like a postage stamp up there. And he's right. It was, a huge sign still going to look really small on the side of that wall. So probably out toward the wall, out toward the road. Some locker room renovations. Again, to make sure that we're being compliant.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I mean, we want to make sure that we've got privacy. We might have some singles. We just want to accommodate any walk of life, any person, so that they feel comfortable, they feel supported. And right now, it's pretty standard. It looks like 1960 back there.
Oh, I know. I was there.
For me, it was 1970. So yeah.
So John, you brought that up. Is there no?
I've got 23 singles.
In the restrooms.
I've got 23 singles in both buildings, 23.
Okay, so you're good on
So we've got a ton of them, right? I mean, we can accommodate just about any walk of life, any kid. It doesn't matter. They got options. They don't have to go clear across the building to find some place they're comfortable. It's just right around the corner in most places. It's everywhere. But we want to be cognizant of that, right? We might squeeze that sponge, and I think this will do that. And some of these things were other considerations that didn't necessarily come to our team, and that's fine. I think it's just more capital project type things, maintenance things that need to be done anyway. Let's be honest, we didn't discuss softball diamond. It never came up. But, Title IX, I mean, we've got a baseball diamond. We don't have a softball diamond. So that goes part of bringing anything up to speed. We got to get in compliance with that. But we did not spend time on that. We didn't spend time on an auxiliary gym. We focused on learning. We didn't feel like that had a lot of support the last time, 3 years ago. We wanted to focus on, what's doable, what our community can support, because they're a big part of this. It's their school. It's your school. So that's kind of 1 through 3. That's the first year through 3. I think it syncs with the MIS plan. It certainly can fluctuate if that plan changes some. But again, with this team here, we tried to focus on NJSH or MSH or whatever this is going to be for us, and focused on learning and focused on what we heard from the community, kids, and these experts, these staff. We can't discount the experts that were at that table time and time again. Some of them have been at this table from the 80s, and they've seen a lot of this stuff. And so I value Tammy's perspective out there at MIS and here. We've got the same thing over there. They've been here for years. They've seen all of that stuff. All of that poured in. I've been here for 5 years. I don't have all the answers. I'm representing what they told me. what you told me, what the community told me, what the kids told us. So I think we've got that here.
Any discussion on alternative energy? If we're gonna consolidate, you're right, you said keyword comprehensive. So if we're gonna consolidate our campus, that further promotes, you know, looking at reduced energy costs and stuff
Yeah.
like that on campus, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one thing that's on our horizon will be just huge, and I don't know where we're at with it, but the LED and, you know, that's gigantic.
It's in process, we're getting bids right now.
Okay.
I noticed, I got two questions for you. I noticed MES and the high school both have classroom door upgrades. What exactly are those? I know, I have an idea of what they are, but what are they exactly in your head?
So again, there were some things pushed in here that our team really wasn't a part of that, and I can't really speak on that. I'm not sure where that came from. Maybe it was a board member that helped push that in there. I'm not sure.
We have a lot of doors that still have glass in them that somebody with a pair of work boots could go through and pass through, and the teacher with the key was upgrading them to a door similar to this or something with a crash bar on it, and maybe a small window.
Okay.
It's just safety.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. The other thing was, Becky talked about the cafeteria and the change in that, and that was on the plan, or the thing they went over, but it's not on this budgetary item, is it?
Yeah, that would be
upgrading the kitchen and the eating places.
I think we're all encompassing up there in the learning commons, that whole area, the media center, learning commons area. But
John,
It's on the third page.
oh,
there's a third page? No, just kidding.
Well, second of his, isn't it 429 for renovated kitchen and?
Oh, there it is.
Where?
there was two sets of
That's
sheets.
junior
that were sent
high.
out, Dr. Lippy, and this second sheet here
That's junior high.
prioritized it by debt service, education, and operations funds, and I don't think all the stuff got transferred from the other sheets.
This sheet is what I was working off, and it got transferred to her, and that's missing, and that is a big, thanks for detailing that, because that's huge. That needs to be a part of this. That was probably one of the top 3 things we heard, along with the media, was that. Lunch. Every kid benefits. Every kid gets to see the lunchroom every day. So every kid's impacted by that. So, yeah, that needs to be on there. But again, that whole area, the learning commons, the business innovation lab, the media center, all of that, the cafeteria, all that is kind of together with that. But yeah, it's not detailed there.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that was part of year 1 through 3. I mean,
Is there a size of sign that you have interest in?
Big.
Big.
Huge. Yeah, I mean, when we started looking at them a few years ago, when you say 3 by 5, and that's kind of small now, 3 foot by 5 foot. But I see those at just about every little business now. So, yeah, I mean.
Have you driven by the Warsaw High School sign recently?
Yeah, that's their second one. They kind of ran its course the first one through, and the second one's obviously nicer, and they've got staff members' pictures out there every so often, and just recognizing staff over the years. And so I think it's great. So, and that's not exactly really that big, to be honest with you. So,
Hey,
Mr. Libby, in 2 or 3 of these plans, I'm going to show my ignorance here. It talks about updating a data switch. What's a data switch? This is
yeah,
Randy
again, that may be Tony, because
that's
not something Jabin and I put our heads together and said, hey, we need another data system in here.
And that's fine. It's perfectly fine. I just had
It's a router.
Yeah, there's a few items on there that are actually just our normal budgeted maintenance types of items that got rolled into this plan. Upgrading the data backbone, upgrading the wireless system, updating the data switches. Those are just all the infrastructure for our network. And those would probably be towards the very end of that project, of the 1 to 3 years, maybe even a little further out.
Okay, that answers my question.
Yep.
I was 100% sure it had to do with that technology, and no, I just wasn't quite sure.
I'm glad you asked, because I didn't know.
Okay.
So thanks for it.
Hey, Dr. Lippy, Mr. Self has a staff member, Jody Sarver, on the phone who's.
I don't have it yet, I'll get it.
Oh, okay.
If we're gonna have he had some comments he wanted to make.
Oh, he wants to speak, so
Yes.
just start waving at us when
Okay,
you get him on the
I'll see if
phone.
I can get it. Yeah, I'll get it over there.
Any other thoughts
Hey, Jody,
while
I'm
we're
gonna put you
waiting?
on speaker here and put you on the microphone. Just a second.
Oh, okay. it's good.
Well, they're putting in with the. Yeah, please go ahead. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, we're gonna try this. There, go ahead, Jody.
Okay, if you can hear me, this is Jody Sarver. Just calling in because I'm quarantined right now. Otherwise, I'd have been there, but I'm watching from home. Appreciate all the work for all of the teams on the strategic plan. That's one of the few committees I was not on. One of the biggest things I guess I just want to ask, because we talked about, the accommodations for 5th and 6th grade and how we can make the junior senior high school work, or the junior high work for them. And I know we can make the room in the high school and with the renos and everything. I think there's a pretty big emotional part and other things involved with 13-year-olds and 18-year-olds in the same building. And I know that no decisions are being voted on or anything tonight, but I think that's the one area that I haven't seen addressed, and I don't know what classrooms will be where, but also know as a teacher I would not want an office classroom, without windows and such too. So I think there are a lot of other ramifications to moving Laketon's students into town, basically into the junior high. So just simply a thought to put out there before the board goes forward with decisions, I guess.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
So I think the idea there was he kind of indicated that if you change classrooms, there may be some classrooms without windows that currently do, and there would be few of those, so we'd have to work that out. And but we do that. And again, it's a focus on learning. We want to make sure our focus stays on the kids, and the kids are in and out of those classrooms, and certainly we value input from staff on where their departments line up.
Mr. Lippy, we've all heard this discussions before, and Jody just brought forth a good point. So in the day-to-day way the high school runs, how often do the 7th and 8th graders share a passing period, how often do they come in contact with the 18-year-olds?
So 1st and 7th period, kids will intermingle all grades, 7 through 12.
Okay.
Our 7th graders come over for the electives in the morning. A lot of them walk around the high school before going to the junior high anyway, and that's fine. And at the 7th period, they come back over for some electives a lot of times. We've tried to isolate that so that it's not coming and going all the time. It isn't something that has been a big issue for us, but certainly we're cognizant of trying to keep, whether it's a 7th grade wing, and the 8th graders are getting to the point like where, it's hard to even tell the difference sometimes between 8th graders and the older kids, but 7th graders are. So when you're building an addition, we want to be cognizant of when we reassign, it might be 7th graders are upstairs, or 7th graders are along the west wing, or along the south wing. It's something we would try to keep them in a similar location in each other as they move through, and keep the older kids away from each other. So, we don't have a perfect winged system. We don't have like wings, like 7th grade wing, it's pure. But, it's something we're cognizant of when we're scheduling and assigning.
And maybe already you've hashed this out, but that is something that they are looking at in the future. If we can do the renovations, that would work that way, like you said, trying to keep segregated a little more according to age group to age group. High school was always high school, 9 through 12. But 7th and 8th, everybody has their own opinions on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yes, and I think if you were still hovering at 140 kids per class, 130, if that's what we could see in the foreseeable future, I don't think we'd be proposing this type of a plan.
Right.
But the reality is, our numbers are coming into kind of play. We're kind of even out into this 100, and so we just want to make good use of taxpayer dollars and make sure that we're efficient and with our space, and make sure that we're giving you guys a great instructional product. Kids come out successful, and I think we can do that with this plan.
Thank you.
Is there dedicated 7th grade teacher? How many 7th grade teachers, 8th grade teachers dedicated, or do you kind of share like 9th through, like Burnworth teaches?
So we've got
everybody.
Probably 6. 7th grade's probably as pure as it gets, and but even those teachers will take an 8th grade class or take an AP World Lit if you're talking about Brooke Bassett, 8th or 7th grade social studies teacher. So I'd say 6 probably pure 7th grade teachers, pretty close to pure. There's a section or two that'll come over here, they go over there. But the rest of them, 8 through 12, it's maybe a couple pure per grade, and then the rest of it's like, who's the expert in social studies? Who's the expert at U.S. history? And we get those, and who's licensed in those areas? Because we've got a very diverse set of teachers and their licenses, and so that's kind of what I look for. I look for somebody with a great license that can teach their butt off, and so we've kind of made that work over the years. Like for instance, Gwen's pretty pure. I mean, she's teaching ag classes pretty much all day. Jamin's teaching pretty much all like some type of science or environmental or anatomy and phys. So it's mainly the science areas. I don't really have too many that are going from like science to language arts or acrylic crisscrossing. I mean, Alyssa McDowell may be the closest to that. She does some math, health, PE. Her license is awesome. I love that license, but we have a few teachers like that. They can teach a lot of different things and are awesome at it, so we take advantage of that.
Thank you. Last question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot with this. Maybe someone else can help too. How many 7th graders are taking 8th grade classes right now?
How many 7th graders are taking an 8th grade class?
Advanced class, if you will.
Well, our math classes, a lot of schools will do that. So I know we've got a group of that's probably around 20, 25 7th grade advanced math students. But if you're talking, are you talking like any grade level or talking about 7th grade?
7th grade specifically.
For the most part, it's math.
Estimated.
I think math's the only one.
Math, and here's the other thing we do honor.
Oh, maybe science.
At times we'll get students come in from other districts that did have that opportunity. We don't let them lose a high school credit. Like we'll push them into a first year. We just do the best we can with the kids that move in during the middle of the year so that they don't lose a high school credit. But as far as I think that's good to clarify that too. When you said how many 7th graders are in an advanced class, it's pure. Like they're all 25 in together into that advanced math class, Algebra 1. Okay. So they're not mixed with a senior in there. I'm sorry, maybe that's where you're going with that.
Can you clarify, 7th grade is in this building, right?
Kinda. This is home base.
I'm dead because we were talking too much. I'll just talk out.
Check, okay. So the question was, their lockers are here, their homerooms are here, if they have a study hall, it's here, but they go across for band, they go across for choir, and right now we're hosting that in PAC because of COVID, They'll come across for agriculture. They'll come across for lunch.
So the seventh
And
graders are
facts.
still the seventh graders are still going back and forth, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Okay, so how many trips a day? Are they going over there for 3 classes? And I don't mean to put
Oh,
you on the
no,
spot.
no.
They're going over there for 3 classes
So-
and then coming back here?
So and that used to be a free-for-all. So that's a great question, Dave, because what we ended up doing was first period, a lot of them are over there. 7th period, a lot of them are over there. And then in between, I'm not going to say there's not, it's sometimes, but it's mainly here. So they start their day here, they go over for a class, they come back, and then they're here through 6th. Lunch. They got to come over for lunch. They come back, then they come back over for 6th, 7th, and then they go home from there. So they might, right now they're not even using their lockers so much, they may not even come back over here for their locker at the end of the day. They'll just go right to the bus. Well, that's one class though. It's one class. I think that's as clear as I can get for you. I know it's still muddy, but most of them, 1st and 7th, along with lunch. Can't forget lunch.
Okay, so in the plan, adding 5 classrooms there where the office is now. Are you gonna be able to fit all the 7th graders over there?
Yeah, and there's also,
I think it was 7.
it goes above too. So there's classes that go 2nd story on that addition as well. And again, that's a Dana talk, so, do we need 8? Do I need 7? We gotta work that out.
So we haven't looked at what we got in 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd grade coming.
It's consistent.
Capacity plan.
Oh, no, that is in the plan because that's the only way we make something like this work. If we're still sitting at 130, 140 per class, and I'm up around 760, 770 for my total level 7 to 12, that makes this really tough. Makes it really tough. We could do it, but.
We have all of that.
What's I'm saying is if we've looked at 6th grade through 4th
Oh,
grade,
yeah.
or 6th grade through 2nd, what our enrollment is right now, if we don't get any growth,
Yes.
5th grade, the 5 classrooms will hold the 7th grade over there,
Yes.
where I'm trying to.
Yes.
Yes. We've looked at all of that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other board got any questions?
No, but just to that comment, I'm gonna say, if we spend $22 million, I would hope that I see a lot of growth potential in here, right? Dual language, pre-K, that's our hook.
Yep.
And hopefully that gets coordinated, I know Julie's doing that in the community, but, that's something to look at when we finalize these plans. That's a lot of money to not grow, is what the statement I'm gonna make, and we have good students, so I think it's pertinent that we would look at that, at least look at 5% capacity increase or something like that. Otherwise, this could, right now, I feel the excitement with you guys, I feel the excitement on the board, and a long time coming, right? This is pretty killer tonight to look at the efforts that you guys have put forth on this. We have to look at it, you said the key word, comprehensive, because we need, decisions need to be made at each school, and then we can collectively look at this and say, okay, this is the exact plan that we're gonna implement, and then we'll work on data too on the cost and things like that, but I greatly appreciate all the effort from everybody. It's been, a little while, but, there's a lot of key things in here for growth that I see, so thank you.
Well, and you're looking at the right people, because they're the ones that gave up all the time over the last year and a half. They just keep hanging in there with me. So if somebody mentions something about starting over, I got to bar the door. Like they're not on board for that. They're not on board for that, so.
No, I don't think anybody is, but
Yeah.
there's some conversations that need to happen. I do have a suggestion I'd like to run by the board. February's kind of full of meetings already. What would you folks think about the 4th Tuesday in March, having a work session at MES so that Amy and Dr. Rameau and Jeremy can walk the board through exactly what you know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but if we walk through it and we're standing in it, then we can ask the questions. So I'm just putting that out there. What would you guys think about that? I don't think we want to mess with trying to put it online. That'd be an awful lot of work for the staff, but we could have a work session and open the meeting and then vote to recess the meeting and then walk through the building and take a look at the MES plan.
I love that idea. I want to make sure to do the high school as well, if that's possible.
Well, I think
And
the
this
other
building,
avenue
too.
on that is, you know, you don't want us all separately coming to your building looking through it, right? Or do you want? So it could be a way.
You don't care, Glenn?
It could be a way to just do a walk and talk. And as we get further with this, right, getting into more detail and then a better understanding of exactly what you're after. So versus words on a piece of paper.
Would you rather have them like in groups of 2 or 3 and you could come and just walk them through what you're,
No, all at once.
all at one time?
Rip that Band-Aid off.
You were shaking your head, so I'm sure we can work it out.
Do you guys remember doing that when you were in school? Like, I remember school boards coming in when I was an elementary student, like, there'd be 8 people walking in. They said, that's the school board. I didn't know who that was.
You know, my kids are John at Purdue, you know, and when your kids get out of school, you know, you tend to, again, start to forget things, you know, you lose track of the kids. I mean, you know, when you coach them, you know, these kids come up 18 years, hey coach, you know, and you remember them, but, you know, you start to lose a little track of who's in school and the names and stuff like that. So you know, as we talk about this, I just think it's a good opportunity for just walk and talk and really give you guys a moment to do you know, maybe it's not a sales job, but really, you know, make it physical and make it real, you know, of what we want.
Are you talking about every building we would go to in one night?
No, just MES on the 4th. What I'm thinking is we do MES on the 4th Tuesday, and then when we get into April, we can do Dr. Lippy's building. This one, I guess we could walk through and look at what's here, you know, and let Tommy just kind of, you know, I think we can do those on the same day if you want to, but it's
Yeah,
whatever the board wants to do.
My only concern would be just from what Dana said, that we really need to start giving him a direction in spring. So I wouldn't say any later than really April, he needs to have a direction. So if you're gonna do that, then you need to come up with some dates that work for not, you know, a pretty quick turnaround there that we can start working with Dana on whatever. Because they have to start working finances. And it's really all about getting the best contractors. Bottom line is what he's saying, if we wait too long, we won't get them. It'll cost us more money.
Well, we're
And I
looking
know
at-
I've been down that route, so I've done lots of building projects and it's a year.
We
and
got a whole year, right?
What's that?
We don't have any money falling off till 23. We got a whole year to get this
No,
done.
in 2022, you can start your project because you wouldn't have to pay for it till 2023, which is when we have money falling off. So, yes, we have to be completely through this process, and he really wants us to focus on the spring to give him guidelines of where we actually are going. So, the sooner the better.
Well, there's some major detail to get to here then.
Right, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
The 4th Tuesday
We just
is
keep putting it a month, we're not gonna get where we need to be in time.
the 4th Tuesday in March is the 23rd. Is everybody available?
What time of day are you talking about?
Amy, you got a particular time? I mean, I know all the other board members besides me are working. Does 6 o'clock work for you, or? Does it work for everybody else?
What was the date?
23rd, Tuesday, 6 o'clock, at MES. You don't think we need to stream that, do you?
I mean, I'm just saying.
Mess with them, we don't, I mean, once it's over the.
Pretty difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we were not gonna spend all the money to do that for.
Come on, boys. Let's move this on.
And we would not be able to stream that live, so just so everybody is aware, that's not something that would be.
We just have to advertise the change in location, and the public would be, have it in the Commons, Amy?
I thought you wanted to do a walk and talk.
Well, we do, but we still gotta open the meeting and do all that, and just,
Yeah, the Commons is fine.
okay. Do we have a consensus from the board
6
then,
o'clock,
what we're gonna do?
Why do we have to wait till March?
Because we got all these other meetings in February.
You can come whenever you want to.
You can do it sooner.
2/16, well,
The
I'm good on
16th
that
is
day.
the last one.
We just said we were gonna do our work sessions on the 4th Tuesday, is the only reason I suggested if there's another date. Well, well, like I said, we got all these other meetings in February, big meetings.
How about we, so you said March 23rd?
Why don't you do the board meeting there on the 9th and then do your walk and talk after? Is that too much of a good thing?
Randy.
Yeah.
The stream and stuff would be difficult for Randy, I think. You're talking lots of equipment moves. You could do that with these two buildings, because you're right here.
I can probably have it condensed. I'll make it work if you need it to work.
I don't know, I don't think we need to spend all the money and all the time doing that. I mean, it might only be a 20-minute meeting.
Thank you,
I
high
mean, it's
school.
open to the public.
Thank you, guys.
2-3.
Would you-
23rd work for everyone?
What's that?
The 23rd of March.
Can we not do February?
I can't hear you.
In February on the 9th, after the board meeting, can you go into a work session and do this building in the high school? I don't know, I'm asking. Somebody suggested it, I don't remember.
Well, we already got a full agenda for the 9th on.
What about the 16th?
I'm all for the 9th, Fred, let's do it.
February 9th. Isn't the 9th the board training with Darren Bates?
On the 16th is Darren Bates.
Okay.
Oh, you're wanting to do this after our regular board meeting?
Yeah, that's the one, somebody suggested.
2/9, right?
2/9, yes.
Yeah, she's talking about 2 now.
That's a little
That's gonna
quicker.
be long.
No, I was not talking about the 16th, I was talking about the board meeting. Somebody threw it out, I don't remember who said it, but what about doing it after a board meeting, we're already here?
Well, we could do this building after the 9th. I don't know
That's what
about
I'm
doing the high
saying.
school.
That's what she was saying, Dave, is this building. Oh.
Yeah, you wanna do that? That's,
Yeah, let's do that and then work on other dates.
okay, we'll do this one after the board meeting on the 9th, and then what do you guys wanna do about the 23rd? For MES.
I mean, I'm fine with that, if we can find a date that's sooner, I would prefer that, but.
I
Okay,
agree.
what about the 16th? Week after the board meeting.
We have Darren Bates on there
What about the
Doesn't have to
2nd?
be Tuesday, does it?
in February.
March 2nd?
Yeah, the second's open for me.
3-2. Sounds good. Is that good for you?
Amy, is that good for you?
Yeah.
So we're moving MES to the 2nd?
3-2, yep, for MES.
So when are we doing the high school?
And when are we doing this one? After the board meeting, February 9th?
You could do the high school after the March board meeting if you want to do that. 'Cause then you all have it within a month's time period. It's up to you.
The second is basketball sectional, if that makes a difference.
The 2nd's MES.
It wouldn't if they're going to MES.
Well, I don't know if anybody can go into
They may
sectional.
have.
Yeah.
Can we do the 3rd?
Third is potentially sectional as well.
Well, whatever you guys want to do.
Look,
Randy, you
people gonna be able to go to sectional?
Probably, I'm not sure.
Parents probably will, and I'm a parent, and I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out who, I mean,
Okay, so 2.9 we're doing MIS, 3.2 we're doing MES. When do you want to do the high school? Rick, you probably want to go to the basketball game, don't you, on the second?
Time's a game.
Yeah, March 2nd, the sectionals.
That's boys sectional.
Okay.
When's it, are you girls sectional? Is that what you?
Boys.
All right, we'll figure out that next date later, right?
Well, you can do it after the 9th school board meeting,
3/9.
just like we were gonna do.
He's got an awful lot of stuff at the high school. I don't know about doing that.
There's no way you guys could do it during the school day, right? You don't want to do it during the school day?
I can.
It'd be amazing if you came over during the school day, I'm just saying.
It'll be amazing no matter what.
See you, Bob.
Thank you all.
guys.
Appreciate it so much, great job.
Do we want to do the 16th March?
I can literally do whatever, Dave. I'm just one person. I can do whatever.
5:30 a.m. Dave.
Go ahead, Brian.
5:30 a.m. I'll do it any day. 5:30 a.m. Get up, old man.
Okay, so 3:16 then? Show of hands. High school?
Sure.
6 o'clock. Okay, we got that done. All right. Okay. Administrative contracts, we have a legal deadline per Indiana code that if
Are we still on the second for the MES?
any administrative rifts have to be given 30 days notice. And tonight would be our
Depends on
last
when
night
you're-
to do that if we want to. Dr. Rameau, do you have a recommendation?
I do, this is not, I would not recommend to non-renew any administrators at this time. We have been putting together a cost savings plan, and if that was not part of it, we have over $900,000. We're pretty confident we are able to save. And so we would love to be able to have that meeting prior to making any decisions. And I understand you have a deadline, but it only applies to anyone that has a one-year contract right now. And we have actually transferred less funds from our education now. The last 2 years ago, it was 18%. Came out of our education fund to operations. Last year it went down to 15%, this year at 10%, so we're using fewer of those dollars. So we feel very confident in what we're going to share with you, and I would appreciate that you would accept my recommendation for no renewals or non-renewals at this time.
Any board comment? No, she just made a recommendation. Does anybody want to make a motion or make a comment? Okay.
Well, I guess we'll see that plan.
February 16th.
Let me just ask this question for clarity. We're not expecting to rip a lot of teachers, right?
Nope, I've already had that discussion with MTA.
Good.
We're
Let's
talking
grow.
about.
I have one, not about the contracts, but it has to do with that avenue. I'm aware that there is processes in order to take on an additional, fill a spot in the IT department right now. And as far as budgetary purposes go, I would recommend to the board that we halt that process and not hire somebody until July or August of this year, to wait until we get the count of what we have and what the state is going to fund us.
Tony, would you like to speak on the number of devices that we have increased over the last few years and why there is a need for this person?
Sure. Basically, we went one-to-one. It's been about 6 years ago. Up until that point, we had about 400 student devices and 100 teacher devices. Now we're currently about 1,800 devices. These are just laptops, Chromebooks, printers, and things like that that we take care of now. We have kids that every day that kids come in and leave, we have to get them set up or make sure that those are turned in, cleaned up, taken care of.
Could I interrupt you, Tony? Would you please remove your mask? I can't understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Yep. We support more applications today than what we ever have before on the Chromebooks and setup. So the position we're discussing right now is for the high school. They have more teachers between these two buildings than the others do. And that person is a full-time position. It's only one of 3 full-time positions in the IT department. They also not only support the high school, but they help us at the corporation level, and they also support the technicians or the people in the elementary and intermediate buildings as support. So we have a lot of support. I mean, our teachers, I was just sitting back there thinking earlier this evening that when we started one-to-one, it was kind of like pulling teeth to get people to change their ways. Now, I tell you, we're kind of running alongside them trying to keep up because of all the things they're trying to do and the support that we have to give them. So I don't know right to moment, but we're struggling. We've been without a technician for 2 months. It's all we can do to keep up with our ancillary projects, such as trying to plan for things such as this, integration of we got to get things ready for online registration again. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I think it would be not a good thing to do.
And you can talk a little bit about the repair and the turnaround time to our students and staff would be greatly.
Well, sure. That position oversees the repairs for all the devices in the corporation, all the student devices. And so we can see anywhere from, I would say, 10 to 15 devices in a week's time. And that person has to take care of that on top of their everyday duties. Now, we do have a student tech, and he's coming along pretty well, but he'll be gone in just a few months. And so there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Could you clarify a question for me?
Yeah.
I thought we bought a maintenance contract when we bought.
Maintenance primarily provides us parts. So we're paying $26 a year, or we paid $26 for 4 years per device, and that is access to parts. And if we need to, if we have an unusual situation, such as at the end of school, if we were to bring things back, we could bring them in to help us for a day or two, but it does not cover repairs. We chose that so that we wouldn't be sending things away and not seeing them for 3-4 weeks. We can generally turn things around in a week or two as long as we have parts. Definitely less than 2 weeks if we have the parts in stock, but that's difficult right at the moment.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions?
Robert, I had trouble hearing you. Did you make that a motion, or were you just making a comment at the end of the meeting for board comments?
Not yet. a couple of months ago, the board approved a $675,000 bond to cover salaries that we were shortfall this year. And Dr. Grimeau, you said you have a $900,000 savings coming, and I'm just wondering, without seeing it, I don't know how many positions that entails throughout the corporation. I just can't, in good effort or in good in good standing, allow another administration position.
This is not an administrative position.
I'm sorry, I'll take that back. Another hired position that we don't currently pay to join us until we know what our count and our financial situation is until July or August. I'm not saying indefinitely. I'm just saying give us some time to find out if we can support this without getting rid of educators as well.
And I certainly understand and respect what you're saying, but this is probably would affect the students and teachers more so than anything.
Well, you said yourself you have a student helper, and I understand that the student helper is limited. I get that.
Just have him a couple periods a day, so
I get that.
It's hard to get much out of him. He can't support the teachers and staff. He just can repair computers and do those little things for us like that.
We also have one person per building, correct?
We have one person in the MES and MIS building. The two of them together probably equate to about a third of a person as far as the total time that we get. So at MES, that person is actually doing our computer lab, supervising that, and helping the teachers with that type of thing. And then in between, when they're helping the kids, they're trying to go out and do whatever needs to be done. MIS is even worse in that we have a person out there that in the afternoon is doing STEM instruction, and in the morning they share their time between doing the library services and technology.
So it sounds like a bunch of the time for the IT department is spent on fixing Chromebooks, am I correct?
Not a bunch of the time, but a good amount of time does. But we also have teacher support. Just for example, snow day to day. I probably spent 3 hours helping Mr. Burnworth, trying to help him get things around that he needed for his classroom. So those are types of things that we all take turns share in doing.
I'd just like to say that we're getting a little off track here. We were talking about administrative contracts that were on the agenda, and this hire will come up next month or the month after, whenever they get it processed on our agenda. Does anybody else have any comments regarding the administrative contracts?
Yeah, I think that the way this could work, there's no magic barriers between us.
Thank you,
Robert,
Tony.
if you have some ideas, I would promote you to go talk to Tony. You know, I think that's the way we need to start doing business, is face to face. And you've got some good ideas on cost cutting and things. That guy runs the center, you know, so I promote you to go share them with him. You know, if you're willing. I think that's the way we need to go forward, is when somebody has ideas, you know, go directly to the person that kind of has the idea. If you don't mind that, I guess. I mean.
Well, I kind of do, so I'd rather you go through me, because I don't want you to take up their time that they should be working. So if we could work that out and develop a time that we could sit down together, I'd appreciate it, because I want to know what's happening as well. So I think I need to be part of those discussions. I mean, if I'm held responsible for everything in this district, I
We're all held responsible for
I
everything in
understand
this
this,
district.
but I want to be part of those conversations if that's the case. If you guys are going to hold me responsible. So that's all I'm asking.
No, I'm fine with that. I just think there's no barriers here, so when people have ideas, we just need to share the ideas with each other and work for the best solution for MCS. So that's.
Any other board comments on administrative contracts? Any other board comments on anything else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Do we need to have a motion to accept Teresa's, didn't she make?
No,
we don't
it's
have to have
actually
motion
just
for
a
that? Okay.
discussion item.
Okay. Yeah, that's
There
fine.
is no
Okay.
motion, I mean, you could turn it into
No,
one if
that's
you
fine, I
choose
just
to
didn't
do
want to leave you
that.
hanging, that's fine, no problem there. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I apologize, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well, I
It's
just,
not on our
I wanna
agenda,
go
like-
back to what Robbie said, I know it's not on the agenda, but protocol has been in our corporation that when we go to fill a position, we go ahead and go through that process even prior to board approval, because we've been in situations, you get down to it, because you're only meeting one time a month, we don't necessarily get all of those approvals prior to having to put people in place. So if this is different, I need to know, because we were already in the process, because this is a very critical position. It's like, even if a science teacher leaves, I gotta replace the science teacher regardless of a board meeting. It's the same thing, I feel like, with this position. It's a critical position, so, it's not a factor in our savings plan. And I sure don't want our staff and students to suffer because of it, but that's where I'm at. So if I'm not supposed to be moving forward, I need to know, because I'm following past protocol.
Does anybody else have any comments on what I said, like just before we finish?
I couldn't hear what Robbie said.
Does anybody else have any comments on what I said or thoughts on what I said, my concern?
I already asked for him, nobody said anything. We have a motion on the table to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Brubaker to adjourn, all in favor? Thank you, everybody, for coming.